Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Entitled Parents. Our first post is by Anonor, mother-in-law living rent-free. I'm almost at a breaking point. My mother-in-law is living with my spouse and I rent-free. We are married with 3 kids. Home is 3,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 1 office, 2 living rooms, loft. Decent size house. She broke up with her husband January 2022 and had nowhere to go, so we let her stay with us so she could get back on her feet, no questions asked. She moved most of her belongings into a storage unit, $175 to $200 a month. We let her stay in one of the 4 bedrooms. Oldest child has his own room. 2 youngest children share a room. Spouse and I have the master bedroom. Office remains an office. As far as getting back on her feet, she only works approximately 2 hours a day due to work-related injuries, so her income is pretty limited. She's trying to hang on until retirement, but that's about 7 more years away. We don't ask her to pay us any rent or any bills. She's only responsible for her own bills, car, insurance, phone, etc., and her own food. All we ask is she watch the kids when needed, due to my spouse and I working long hours, and drop off and pick up our oldest child to practice 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Classes are 1 hour 15 minutes for what it's worth, and only a 10 minutes drive away. Oftentimes she won't drop off or pick up the oldest from practice because she goes to the casino. She actually goes to the casino around 3 to 5 times a week. Her income is already very limited, from only working 2 hours a day 5 times a week. Yet she chooses to go to numerous casinos anywhere from 1 to 2 hours away, spending whatever little funds she has left. She claims she only uses free points the casino gives her, whatever. But the gas it takes to get there, money on food, etc., is enough to make it a horrible decision. Let alone factoring in she's living completely free on someone else's dime, while the owners of the home are working their tails off. When either my spouse or I have the day off, she abandons any childcare obligations she has and is out and about on the town doing who knows what. She comes home at 3, 4, 5, even 6 a.m. with bags of junk or food that nobody eats, taking up space in the pantry or fridge, oftentimes rotting until we throw it away. We've allowed her to stay with us to help her out and get back on track, but I can't help but feel I'm being taken advantage of. This whole time she could have been saving up so she could move out and get her own spot. It's been 18 months of free living for her, no bills, no rent, spending her money on gambling, a useless but expensive storage unit filled with junk that she claims she will use when she gets her own spot again. The only positive is she watches the kids while my spouse and I work, but even then it's only for a few hours a day at most, since we work different shifts, and one of us are usually always home. When asked if she has a plan, she says she's only staying here until we no longer need her, and she's been saving up to get her own spot. The math doesn't add up, and her actions don't exactly give me the warm and fuzzies either. I think I'm at the point where she needs to move out and get her own spot, but at the same time, I don't really think she's saved a dime. If she really hasn't saved a dime this whole 18 months living with us, is it wrong to kick her out, being that she's my mother-in-law? For what it's worth, she's a very kind-hearted, sweet person, just doesn't seem to have her priorities straight at all. Our next post is by Mountain Hawk. I am 31, asked my father-in-law M60 to start contributing to household expenses again, after I found out that my wife F31 had not told me that he had stopped financially contributing. Now he is looking at moving out and possibly being homeless. Did I do the right thing? Any advice you can give? My M31 father-in-law, M60, has lived with my family, me, wife 31, and 2 children 4 and 2, for about 3 years without making any regular contributions towards the household. He occasionally helps with the groceries here and there, paid for a moving truck hire 3 months ago, $500, and some shelving about 2 years ago, $600. The issue is, we've had to move into larger houses to accommodate him and our living arrangements. This leaves us having to pay $550 a week in rent. He gets his own room, toilet, bathroom, whilst my family has to share one small ensuite bathroom. All the while we are living beyond our means and our savings are declining. We were hoping 2 years ago that he would start contributing, but he hasn't. 6 months ago, he offered to start paying $150 a week, and this became an agreement with me chasing him up. My wife took over the household finances. In this time, I found out that he had stopped paying and became furious with my wife. I told her that both she and her father broke my trust, with him stopping to contribute and not saying anything, and with her not saying anything whilst watching our savings dwindle. I knew this was a delicate matter, so I calmly and quietly asked him why he had stopped contributing to the rent. He mentioned that as a handyman, he had a slow turnover of getting paid. I then said, "But you haven't paid anything since March," and he just acknowledged that. I then asked him if he was able to start contributing $150 to the household starting in 2 weeks. He agreed. Since then, he has completely stopped talking to me. He approached my wife and said that he would have to either start contributing $150 or I would be turfing him onto the street. I know that he doesn't make much as a handyman, but we already have 2 children to support and can't support 3 dependents. I feel like even a teenager could make $150 a week, but he feels too prideful to work for somebody else. And he can't get welfare because he has been doing cash-in-hand jobs for 30 years and hasn't filed his taxes. Sadly, my wife is really upset. She feels obligated to her dad and loves having him around, but knows that we can't afford to financially support him. Did I do the right thing? Am I in the wrong? What advice can you give? Our next post is by Humble Stock. Mom sells my stuff to buy Christmas presents for dad without using his money. Okay, I have an entitled mom. She does things her way, and devil take the hindmost. But this story is really the first couple of times I realized she was entitled. I'd been a novice guitar player, and while I enjoyed it, I wasn't a fast learner. Still, I had an acoustic guitar that I dearly loved. Then, one day I didn't have an acoustic guitar. Why? Here's how my mom explained it. I hate to take Dad's money to buy him a Christmas present, so I sold your guitar. After all, you weren't using it. Yeah, right. I practiced every day except on days when my other passions, the Boy Scouts, comic books, etc., got in the way. I'd even been talking about starting a band and practicing in our basement. Do you begin to see another motive for selling my guitar when I wasn't looking? Not surprisingly, though it was a surprise at the time, she refused to replace my guitar when I told her I wanted it back. Another example not quite so clear-cut, but still, backstory. My dad served in the Navy in the Pacific during World War II, and as a souvenir, he brought back a Japanese Army rifle, an Arisaka. Now I knew even as a teenager that Dad didn't see land combat, so he must have bought the rifle from a Marine or soldier, but still, it was a rifle and therefore way cool. I'd started shooting targets while in the Scouts at summer camp, and I quickly realized I had a gift for that. I later went on to shoot on the college rifle team, so yeah, I was good. And as the only son, I figured the rifle would be mine when I turned 18. But no, one day I found the rifle gone, and yeah, Mom sold it to buy Dad a Christmas present, but not with his money. She didn't work out of the home, so earned no money of her own. One final story about entitled Mom. When I went off to college, I did 2 things. I bought a reel-to-reel tape recorder. At that time, this was state-of-the-art, and copied all of my extensive collection of records onto tape because they were easier to store in a dorm room. I left my albums at home, but I had not abandoned them, until my mom sold them without asking, and these I'd bought myself. There wasn't even the excuse that, "I bought you your guitar, so it's mine to sell if I want." When I found this out, I went ballistic then. A horrific thought hit me, and I raced up to my room, and my comic book collection was gone. "You're too old to collect comics," she explained, then again noted that this was the only way she could afford to buy Dad a birthday present without using his money. Now sure, these were well-read comics, but still, I had the first and the first 100 or so Fantastic Four comics. The first and first 100 or so Spider-Man comics. The first, well, you get the picture. Even well-read comics, if they date back to the origins of Marvel as a comic powerhouse during the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby days, are worth thousands or more today. But only if you actually still own them. Did I mention that Mom died a multi-millionaire, but she made sure that us kids got nothing? Most of her estate went to St. Jude's, a good charity. But with her wealth, sharing even a small percentage of that wealth would have still left St. Jude's with many millions, but, as the song goes, and she's buying her way to heaven, or so it seems to me. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.